Bluegrass Jamalong is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas. Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jamalong, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back to Bluegrass Jamalong. In this episode I have 4 separate interviews for you, all recorded at IBMA's World of Bluegrass in Chattanooga a couple of weeks ago. I was planning to speak to a few people for the podcast and decided to collect them together and do them while I was out there because there's a connection between them all. They're all artists or people related to Dark Shadow recording. I was going to chat to Becky Buller about her new record. I was also going to chat to Ben Wright from Henhouse Prowlers. And I'd been talking to Jana Mougin from Dark Shadow about talking to Rick Faris, and they were all going to be there, and I thought, let's talk to them all at IBMA. We'll put them together for one episode and also use it as an excuse to chat to Jana about Dark Shadow as well, because they're such an interesting company and putting out some great music. So what we have is a collection of interviews recorded at various points, essentially around the convention centre in Chattanooga. So there's some noise going on in the background, much as there was with the interview I did with Maddie from Eastern Ashgrass last time round. It shouldn't get in the way. I actually quite like these interviews. There's a bit of buzz in the background and they feel really kind of live and with the sense of the event around them. I think it's a lot of fun. So let me talk you through what we've got. First up, we've got Becky Buller, and she is here to talk about her brand new covers record, Songs That Sing Me. That is followed by a chat with Ben Wright from Henhouse Prowlers, both about their new record, Unravel, but also about the Bluegrass Ambassadors work they do and sort of cultural diplomacy that comes with that. That was really interesting. Also chat to Rick Faris, who is not only a great singer, great songwriter, also a guitar builder, about some of the process he's been through in recent times and his new record. And then finally I chat to Jana Mougin about Dark Shadow and kind of, you know, their philosophy and how the business works and how they work with their artists, because that's really fascinating as well. I bumped into Jana and Stephen from Dark Shadow a couple of times at IBMA, and Stephen's been on the podcast, and just really interesting. So I hope you enjoy this. A lot of fun to put things like this together, mix things up a little bit, take a slightly different approach. First up, we have got Becky Buller. You may remember Becky was on the podcast a while ago chatting about her record Jubilee, which I'm a big fan of, so it was really nice to see Becky again. Here we go. First chat is with Becky Buller. Becky, welcome back to Bluegrass Jamalong. It's great to have you here again.
Thank you, Matt, and it's good to have you here in the US. Welcome.
I'm having a great time, thank you. Last time I spoke to you, we were chatting about your wonderful record, Jubilee. And I'm going to talk to you today about your new album, Songs That Sing Me. But first, given that we're here in Chattanooga at IBMA, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about your relationship with IBMA, because you have won, is it 10 IBMA awards now? Yeah. But you're also very involved with the foundation and with the organisation itself. What does this mean to you?
Oh, man, this is my home. This is my family. I have been involved in IBMA since 1995. I got to experience the first location that they had this at in Owensboro, Kentucky, before it moved to Louisville, and I went with it to Nashville and then to Raleigh. I was actually, at that point, I was on the board of the IBMA from 2013 to 2017, and then went right into board service for the IBMA Foundation, which I just cycled off of. I didn't know. They told me I'd been on there 9 years. It all happened so fast. I didn't know. I didn't know till this week. I'd been on there for 9 years. There's just been so much life coming at me. But I love bluegrass music. I love our community. I can't believe that this little redheaded kid from South Central Minnesota has friends all over the world because I learned how to play the fiddle, that little bitty fiddle, and write songs.
It's extraordinary. And this is only my third World of Bluegrass, and just within the first half hour of being here, I'd seen 3 or 4 people that I know, and I'm from 2,500 miles away. I feel in a strange way, because of the amount of time I spend doing the podcast rather than involved in the UK bluegrass, I feel more connected to the US bluegrass community than the UK one in a really strange way. Yeah. And that says something beautiful about IBMA and how welcoming it is.
Yes. Oh, man, I agree. And you've got a great bluegrass community over there. I'm hoping I'm going to get back to Sore Fingers again really soon. I absolutely love that camp. And as we talked about the first time I was on the podcast, that was my very first camp that I ever did anywhere. And not only was I out of my element teaching at a whole week-long camp, but I was in the UK, completely out of my comfort zone there. But it was so great. I loved it. I always learn so much about myself when I travel internationally, and also about my heritage. I've got a lot of Scotch-Irish heritage and UK heritage in me, and German. I've gotten to tour in Germany quite a bit too, and so I'll like see some of the mannerisms and be like, oh, that's why I do that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's that sense of kind of going somewhere else to see where you came from in a different perspective. There's a quote that, and I can't remember which author it's from, but it's one of the British authors from years and years ago, says, like, who knows of England who only England knows, or something like that. And it's like, how can you know where you're from if you never leave it? Right.
And I guess maybe that's why I have such a hard time when people ask me, what's it like being a woman in bluegrass music? And I don't know how to answer that, because I've always been a woman in bluegrass music. But I will say I always thought of myself as a fiddler who happened to be a woman, And I, like Vicki Vaughn said at one of her acceptance speeches or something the other day or yesterday, I just wanted to hold my own on stage with the boys, If I couldn't cut the gig as a fiddler, well, then I didn't need to be there. And so, anyway.
And there was a really strong female representation at the awards last night. And you look at a category like Banjo Player of the Year, and 3 of the 5 were women, and the stage was full of women. And it was
Yes.
But at the same time, nobody felt any need to make a point out of that. It was just like, here are all the best musicians.
It was great. That was great, and I love that we've gotten to that point where, nobody made a big deal about it. It was what it was, and it was beautiful and wonderful, and they closed out the show last night with Earl's, what was it, Earl's special, not Earl, Ralph's
Banjo special.
Thank you. Sorry guys, I am so not awake. I was up till about 2:30 this morning. This morning. It was beautiful hearing Kristen and Jana and Allison Brown all up there, doing their thing and just rocking it. And then all the other women that joined them on stage, along with, Steve Martin and Billy Strings and Del McCurry and Jim Lauderdale. And it was so good. It was a really magical night, and wonderful to be there and just get to take it all in.
Yeah, definitely. And so talking about the way you come from and kind of background and all of that stuff, things you grew up with, this record, Songs That Sing Me, is full of songs that mean something to you. And I was really curious to know, are these, because I'm fascinated by the way we inherit music from our parents, or our approach to music from our parents.
Yeah.
And there's a real mix of stuff on here. It's kind of, there's Reno and Smiley, but there's James Taylor, there's Paul Simon. Mm-hmm. And I was curious, are these all songs that have been with you from early, or are they things you've accumulated through the years?
They're things I've accumulated, but there's several on there. And as you were saying that, I was going through the ones that I learned from my parents, like Camel Train. They were singing that before I was born. The Outlaw is a Larry Norman song that was, he was the father of Jesus People rock music. And that's one of his more folky tunes, but it was just a balm to my soul getting to sing that with Becky Isaacs. Oh, what a gorgeous voice, like dark chocolate. Oh, she's so good. And I love that one particularly because it is one of the gospel songs on the record. And it's just talking about Jesus and the things that people might have thought Jesus was when he was walking this earth. Like, was he a sorcerer? Was he a poet? Who is this guy? But he's obviously, charismatic, and we got to find out who he is and what he's about. So it gave me different perspective on who Jesus was. And let's see what else from Auction at the Home Place. I learned from my parents. We got that from the Dry Branch Fire Squad, and in researching for just for the record and making sure I had all the credits correct, I went back and I listened to that entire Dry Branch Fire Squad record that the Auction at the Home Place comes from, and it gave me pause, and I had to reevaluate how I think of my quasi-family band. It was my parents and I and another couple, Gordy and Roxy Schultz, and God rest and bless you, Gordy. He passed away just a few weeks ago. But anyway, my family band was basically a Dry Branch Fire Squad cover band. We played pretty much all of that record. But, I want to say it was wonderful to get to hear Ron Thomason's acceptance speech of his Distinguished Achievement Award yesterday here during the Industry Awards luncheon. So I'm so glad that they honored him and the wonderful music that he continues to make through Dry Branch Fire Squad and the contributions he makes to having the High Mountain Hay Fever event out in West Cliff, Colorado, which benefits children's health in their area of Colorado.
It's one of the joyful things about things like the Distinguished Achievement Award, but also the kind of Hall of Fame nominees, and it's just, you go out afterwards and you walk around and people go, oh, it's great to see Hot Rise. They're the first band I saw live.
And the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I mean, I just got chill bumps thinking, and Jana and I talked about this last night. Jana Mougin from Dark Shadow Recording, we were sitting together. Larry Stevenson and David Parmalee singing together, and then, of course, Randy Graham. But that combination is just magic. And those records really spoke to me. So that was great to hear those guys all singing last night, the Bluegrass Cardinals.
We'll be right back with you just after this. The long-awaited Hill Country series from Collins Guitars represents a new voice in their acoustic lineup. Rooted deep in the bluegrass world, these new Dreadnought NOM models feature a strong fundamental tone with a dry, warm and woody character that's sure to catch the attention of players who hold the vintage instruments of the 30s in their highest regard. Watch world-class pickers Jake Workman, Kenny Smith and Bob Minner perform with new Hill Country instruments on the Collins Guitars YouTube channel, and learn more at collinsguitars.com. And I'm kind of curious, because particularly with what we were talking about at the beginning about that idea of kind of leaving home to find home again. And so many people go through that journey with music, and I think this is very true, particularly with roots music. Like, people grow up with it and their parents sing it, it's in the house, and at some point, like as kids, we all have to kick against where we came from in some way. And then people go back again, but you need to move away, or you need to find your own thing, or you need to somehow dismiss your parents to work out who you are. And then you kind of... So was that a musical journey for you as well?
Yes, actually. And the Simon & Garfunkel cover exemplifies that. So in high school, I was playing in my parents' band. I wanted to sing in their band when I was about 9 or 10. I convinced them to get me violin lessons, because we didn't have a fiddle teacher in our area. Convinced them to get me violin lessons so I could play fiddle in their band, so I could sing in their band, which is what I really wanted to do. And then also, right around that time, I was finding my superpower, like Harry Potter found out he was a wizard at 11, right? And so that was about the time that I found out I was a songwriter, and that is my thing. And so I wanted to sing the songs that I was writing in my parents' band. Where am I going with this? So high school hit, and I realized how uncool I was. And for a time, I found solace in the music of Simon & Garfunkel. They really got me through high school. My friend Katie Wadalevich introduced me to their music, and I was just enamored by Paul Simon's writing and their harmonies, and and there is precedent for Simon & Garfunkel being covered in bluegrass music. Country Gentleman recorded Leaves That Are Green Turn to Brown.
And Emmylou's beautiful version of The Boxer
And The
from
Boxer.
Roses in the Snow.
Yes, and I think there's let's see, is it Mumford & Sons did the, we kind of claim them. But Jerry Douglas is playing with them on their version of The Boxer, which is so good. Such a haunting song. Oh, yeah. Anyway, thank you, Paul Simon. Thank you, Art Garfunkel.
And they were big records for me growing up. Like I was kind of raised on the Beatles with a steady sub-diet of like American
singer-songwriters. Did you fight against the Beatles?
No.
I send people to the Beatles all the time.
The joy of the Beatles is like when you're a kid, you might like Yellow Submarine or Octopus's Garden, and then you get a bit older and you like something else. There's always somewhere else to go with. There's always like a different area of the Beatles you can go to.
Yes, they're incredible. Their melodies. I send my songwriters to the Beatles just to give them like some melody ideas. If they're stuck in a rut, tell them, listen to the Beatles for sure. Romy, my daughter, she's 12. Her favorite song is I Am the Walrus.
My son Fred is 12, and that is his favorite song at the moment.
Yeah. Why? Why?
I mean, why not?
I'm the Eggman. Yeah. Don't overthink it, Becky. Just be glad. But yeah, I love that Romy, she'll listen to new stuff like Benson Boone, and she's like keeping me current on some of the newer stuff. But then she loves the Beatles. She loves Joni Mitchell, 80s, and my husband he's 10 years older than me, so he'll hear her singing some 80s song. He's like, that was a hit in 1986 when I graduated from high school. I can't believe my 12-year-old singing it. But it's good music, Good music is good music no matter what.
And this is the thing, so like having inherited music from our families, we pass it on to our kids as well. Yeah. And the thing that I find interesting about that is that when I was a kid, like all my dad's records, they were on a shelf. I could see them. Yeah. Like now music is hidden. And like I have CDs still, but we have shelves full of books, but we don't have shelves full of records anymore.
Right? Yeah. I mean, at our house we do, and I need to go through CDs, and I need to put more stuff on shelves and things. And we've got vinyl, and we've got CDs. We even have some 8-tracks that we inherited from Uncle Floyd. I don't have anything to play them on, but we are the keepers of ancient technology and recorded material at our house. I think we even have some 78s, but yeah, that's also like, I don't, with books, I prefer a real paper book. I like the smell of the paper. I like the feel of the paper in my hands. I have memories tied up in certain editions of books, and that is a tether to me. Same with CDs. And it's different from my daughter growing up, and I'm trying to figure out how to navigate the technology and for her to become a good, decent, caring, wonderful human being, critical thinker, and compassionate and empathetic. And we do have a Spotify playlist. She in the mornings on the way to school, she'll pull up the playlist and find us something to listen to. And I've tried to give her some autonomy and choices, but I do appreciate that she looks at lyrics and she's like, okay, Mom, the lyrics are okay. She's either blessed or cursed that she has a mom who listens to the lyrics, and it's like, that's not appropriate, right? Ever. But then we listen to I'm the Walrus, and there's some stuff in there where she just goes, where she knows that really it's not an appropriate lyric.
I mean, it's hard to know what those lyrics mean, so whether they're appropriate or not is tricky.
Yes.
And I'd really like to ask before we wrap up, in singing these songs on the record and putting the list together, did it teach you anything about your writing and your songs? Like, what did you find in these songs as you went through them again for this? Yeah,
well, I've been telling everybody, I mean, these are songs that continue to inform and inspire my own creativity. Studying James Taylor and how he crafts a song, how he performs a song. I love how he infuses new life into old songs. Like, I've seen him live one time, and I hope to get to see him again, but he'll arrange them a little bit differently to keep them interesting. And a good song is a good song, no matter how it's arranged, whether it's played with bluegrass instrumentations or a big band or, polka band or rap or whatever. But I do want to say, and I didn't exactly answer that question, but I want to say that the title of the album comes from C.S. Lewis and the Chronicles of Narnia, and particularly The Magician's Nephew, which is the creation allegory in that series. And Aslan, the great lion, is singing the world of Narnia into being. So anyway, check that out, The Magician's Nephew.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love the idea that you are raised by a family, but it takes a village to raise people, and also it takes art and culture and song and all of those things are part of who we are, and we take them with us wherever we go and we hand them on.
Yes.
Becky, it's been great talking to you again. Thank you.
Thank you. We are so glad to have you here in the U.S. as our guest, but also as part of our big old messy bluegrass family. And I hope I get to see you in the UK next year. So.
Yeah, and it's wonderful to be able to join in and add to the mess a bit. Thanks, Becky. Great to see you again.
Bye, you too.
And that was my chat with Becky Buller. Next up, we've got a conversation with Ben from Henhouse Prowlers. I hadn't met Ben before, hadn't spoken to him. Our paths hadn't really crossed at all. And I really enjoyed this conversation. Kind of covered a lot of ground about a lot of the good that music can do as a connector and a means of kind of getting conversations started, and why it's really important now as much as at any other time, and just about what Henhouse Prowlers have learned from their sort of 21 years as a band, and just, fascinating stuff. Really, really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you do too. Ben, welcome to Bluegrass Jam-along. It's great to talk to you.
It's an honor to be here.
And be here is an interesting way to start, because we are at IBMA World of Bluegrass in Chattanooga. And as a band, this is your 21st year, you're on your 10th record, and we'll come on to that in a bit, but your involvement with the bluegrass community through IBMA and many more things is a big part of what you guys do. What does this event and this kind of community mean for you?
Yeah, my relationship with the organization has changed over the years. When we first started, I remember the first IBMA we came to was in probably 2007, and so we'd only been playing for 3-4 years at that point, and this band started from scratch. We were a bunch of kind of knuckleheads that wanted to play bluegrass in Chicago, which has a deeper bluegrass connection than most people think. With Bill Monroe's history there, Special Consensus is from there, but still, it's not widely known as a bluegrass town, and we had the gumption to start a band because we just loved the music, and it was just 6 guys who got a gig on Tuesday night in a neighborhood on the north side of the city, and those first 10 years were us learning how to play, honestly, and that was the first decade of this band. And I remember Greg Cahill told me we should go to IBMA that 4th year of the band's existence, and we went, and I felt like a complete fish out of water. And I now know that's a common experience for bands, but it wasn't for another 5 or 6 years that we returned, because it took the wind out of my sails in some ways. It was in Nashville at the time. We just went there, and we weren't where we are now as musicians, and we didn't know how a conference like this works. And again, I think that's a very common experience for bands the first time they come to something like this. And so it wasn't until it moved to Raleigh that we went back, and we were official showcase artists that first year we went back. And it was a big wake-up call for me as to why these kind of conferences as a band are not just important, but they're essential. If you're treating your band like a business, which you absolutely have to, then you need to go to the business conference for bluegrass. And as we continued to come every year, I got more and more involved with the organization. And I think that early experience of feeling completely clueless when it came our first time was at least partially what motivated me to get deeper involved in the organization, and I feel blessed to sometimes give advice and help the bands that are going through that same experience we had that first year, to make them feel a little bit more prepared and a little bit less overwhelmed by the whole thing. So yeah, that's kind of, the business conference part during the week is where you get an opportunity to learn from other people about best practices, and it's always changing in this industry. And here we are at the hotel, and I can't walk 5 feet without seeing somebody I know or look up to, or, it's just the place to be if you want to do this for a living,
It's an extraordinary thing. Like, I live 2,500 miles away, and I've only been here 3 times, and still I wander around, and I'm constantly bumping into people that I know, I recognise. Like, it is, but I could totally understand that feeling of overwhelm. So, and it's interesting, that point about advising younger bands. Like, if the younger bands listening to this thinking, I'd love to go to IBMA, but I've no idea what I would do when I get there, what are the couple of things you would suggest people come prepared to do?
Well, I think you need to sign up for the IBMA email list, because that's where you get all the information throughout the year about preparing for the conference. And you really should familiarize yourself with kind of how a business conference like this works. And they all have some commonalities, but they're all have individual quirks too. And so, like, spending some time on the IBMA website, I think is important. Learning about the World of Bluegrass Conference and how it works and what kind of opportunities there are. Like, the number one thing that I think about is you should be applying every year to be official showcase artist. And I don't care how long your band's been around. You should be applying every year for it, because it's not just about the quality or level of success of the band. It's about every year showcasing new bands that haven't been showcased recently. And so you may not get that the first year you apply, but it's something you should apply for every year, because those bands that are being showcased by IBMA get the best opportunities of the week. They get the best slots and all that stuff, and it costs $50 to apply, which is nothing. So that's the number one thing, because if you are officially selected, a lot of the expense of the conference becomes less expensive, because they cover the cost of your entrance for at least 3 members of the band, and it just becomes a much more financially viable or affordable thing to do. But that being said, just because you're not an official showcasing artist doesn't mean there aren't countless opportunities here. And like on the exhibit floor alone, there's multiple stages and opportunities to get in front of people. What's the music store, the acoustic shop? Those guys have a stage on the floor, and they book that out probably 3 to 6 months before it happens. And I bring that up just because you got to be thinking about this all year and planning for it and budgeting for it. That's a big thing too, is like, it is going to cost you money to be here. Factor that into your save money from gigs, put money aside, and then reach out to people like me that know the lay of the land and ask for advice, because everybody's going to have slightly different opinions, and everybody's going to know the people that you should be reaching out to. And it's, it's a learning process. Your first year isn't going to be as bountiful in opportunities as your second year, but it does stack. And now it's something, I know the right people and the right places to be at the right time to make those connections and meet those people. And but as you just said, like I'd say 60+% of the benefit of being here is just running into people and like meeting your heroes, meeting your peers, conversating with them. There's nothing like being in person, which you are experiencing all week this week, and that's awesome.
And I think that's exactly my experience of it. Is you come and there's people like I know I'm going to know when I get here because the guys from Collins sponsor the podcast. There's people I've interviewed I know are going to be here, and you say hello. And the biggest moments in terms of just making connections are talking to somebody you know, and they turn and go, "Have you met?"
Yeah.
And so I was here last year, and I was talking to Stephen Mougin, Dark Shadow boss, and we were just chatting in the lobby at the Marriott, and he went, "Oh, Matt, have you met Ron Block? Ron, come and meet Matt." And Ron's like, "Oh, hi," and gives me his phone number, and so I've messaged him, and I'm going to talk to him about his new banjo record with Damien O'Kane that's coming out, but it's those moments where I could have, the people I'd love to interview on my podcast, and getting through their publicity teams or just getting through the amount of noise they have to deal with as artists these days, and there's somebody going, "Oh, Matt, have you met Ron?" And now I have. Yeah,
that's all, and you're right. Getting through the noise is one of the biggest challenges, and I mean, it's also overwhelming to be here sometimes, but I do feel like I have to I make sure I come here with my batteries charged, and then you get the most out of it, and there's just so much going on and so much inspiration here, and that is largely what I come for personally, at least. There's obviously reasons to be here for the band and all that, but I leave IBMA always wildly inspired, and excited for the year ahead,
And that sort of involvement with the bluegrass community for you extends well beyond just coming here for a few days every year. The work, I'd love to talk to you just a little bit about the Bluegrass Ambassadors program and the work you do with that, because that is an astonishing thing as well.
Yeah, so that, that came out of, 2013 was the first year we started working with the Foreign Service, the State Department, to do cultural diplomacy work. And it was something we kind of fell into. Someone told me about this program you could apply for, and I kind of did so flippantly, not really being aware of what it was. And we made it into the audition section of that, where they were like, "Okay, well, you're going to come to San Francisco and you're going to audition for this thing." And I just wasn't even quite sure what we were doing, but one of the things that they sent us was like 3 different songs from 3 different countries, and they're like, "Pick one of these and reinterpret it, because we want to see what you can do." And I remember that was a Chinese song called Jasmine Flower, and we just kind of were like, "Well, we got the music, let's do it." And I remember at the audition in San Francisco, the band that went before us was also a bluegrass band, and they went into the room and sang in Chinese. And I was like, "Oh, we're not even going to get this." I didn't even know that was something that we should do. And then we got it. And that was a kind of a wake-up call for me personally, because I think that kind of work, that cultural diplomacy work, which is, using art and music as a way to connect people across cultural lines, there's more to it than talent. There's like a desire, or like a passion, and and there's just like, you have to be passionate about it, so now that we've been doing it for more than a decade, we travel around the world and use bluegrass and our kind of passion for connecting with people to do just that, to like find ways to communicate across cultural and linguistic boundaries. And that means, we just got back, for example, from Kazakhstan, had one of the best tours we've ever had. And we learned a Kazakh song, and we learned to sing it in Kazakh, but we didn't learn to sing it perfectly. We don't speak the language. We learned to sing it phonetically. But the connection that we made with Kazakh people, I was just responding to an email right before I walked over here from that tour that's now 2.5 months ago, that it's still reverberating the connections we made over there. And so that's become a huge part of who we are. And Bluegrass Ambassadors is our nonprofit organization that allows us to continue to do that work, whether it's with the State Department or not. And what happened was that we came back from those tours, and really what we learned was that it doesn't matter who you're performing or in front of, if you find something cultural to have in common with them, the connections abound. And so, yes, that can work between an American group of American musicians and Kazakh musicians, but it also happens between a group of guys from Chicago and a group of students from North Carolina. And we realized that we could use the same tactics that we use when we are in Asia, that we can use those tactics here in America too. And so now we go into schools and go into universities and, don't just come in saying, this is bluegrass, listen to it. We come in and we say, hey, we're bluegrass musicians, here's what our music sounds like, now here's what your music sounds like with our instruments. And that's diplomacy, and in the grand scheme of things, it's not hard to do. It just takes a little bit of curiosity and a desire to learn about where you are. And that's what opens doors. People want to be seen. And when you share something with them that they are already familiar with, they feel seen. And that's kind of the core of what Bluegrass Ambassadors has come to mean.
I mean, there's so much in that on so many levels, in that, like, if you walk into a room of 100 people from wherever they're from, you have more in common with them than you don't. But there's so many things we, like, on one hand, we are conditioned to see differences rather than similarities. Yeah. And on the other hand, it feels like we live in an age where we're all, because we want to be seen so much, we're keen to broadcast ourselves. And because we're so keen to broadcast ourselves, we forget to leave the other channel open to hear other people a little bit. And so that kind of cross-communication is so important to remembering we are basically all the same.
Absolutely. And I love that feeling of being sometimes it hits you so hard where you're like, God, I thought I couldn't have imagined before now that I have something in common with these people. You just need to be reminded of that, because we don't all look the same, and we are somewhat conditioned these days to see the differences. And it turns out that the commonality is actually the majority of what's going on. It's just that we're living in very complicated times, and I think it's a worthwhile effort to highlight the things we have in common with people.
Well, and that I love that phrase, cultural diplomacy, because we are in an age, without wanting to stray into specific politics particularly, but when diplomacy with a capital D is taking the headlines, it has become very combative and very much like broadcasting one side of a story. And diplomacy is not, in many ways, doing what it's supposed to. But there are myriad ways that people in general can do that and sidestep the big structures and all of that. And it's really important people keep doing that.
Yeah, and it's been a complicated year because of the change of power in this country, and when we got the offer to go to Kazakhstan, there was concern about what the intention was from the State Department and all that stuff. And we definitely kind of had to sit down and be like, well, what are our beliefs and where are we coming from? And then we realized really quickly, it was like, that doesn't matter. Like, we have to engage no matter where we're coming from. And that's such a huge, I think, an important thing to do. And it's so difficult right now because of all the rhetoric and anger online from both sides. And I definitely I'm learning to love to try to communicate with people from different parts of our political spectrum, you know, and I'm recognizing that I need that kind of discourse needs to continue to happen in a civil way. And what better foot to start off on than music for that kind of stuff? And so I felt so great about that tour to Kazakhstan because, you know, things are changing. Things changed in the White House, and that, of course, trickles down. But, you know, the Foreign Service is one of the most incredible organizations of the American government. There are thousands of people around the world working to figure out how different cultures can interact with the United States in a healthy way, and so that hasn't changed at all. Like, we went to Kazakhstan, and like the programming that they set up for us was amazing. We went to a maker center in Almaty, the capital of Kazakhstan, and met with a bunch of young college students who were musicians and were artists, and were given an opportunity to share our lives as musicians and as professional musicians with them. And the questions we got were so exactly like the questions we get here from the same age group. And then at one point there was a kid who brought a guitar, and he started playing the chords to Radiohead's Creep. And we busted our instruments out, and this entire room of like 40 college students and the Henhouse Prowlers started singing Creep together and playing it together. And like, there was this moment of utter unity in that moment and I looked around, and the Foreign Service officers who were there were just beaming just as hard as any other student. And like, that is diplomacy, and that's the beautiful part of it, and the part that needs to be celebrated.
Well, and also there's something about that that brings us on really beautifully to this record that you have out now. It's like a microcosm of that, because you talk, like in the stuff that came with the record, there's this quote, and it says, "This album is an amalgamation of the thoughts, feelings and experiences of four wildly different humans that have found a creative in the same space at the same time. That kind of alliance means each member often needs to strip down to the most vulnerable versions of themselves and be open to opinions, changes and upheavals. That very well may go against their instincts. In other words, we unravelled in the only way we know how and came out the other side exceptionally proud of every song on this album." And that is exactly the same thing, is being prepared to give something away and listen and find that can be within a bunch of people who've been playing music together for a long time. And that's a really powerful way to approach music, because music is ultimately communication between you as humans, and then communication between you and us as people hearing that.
Yeah, I haven't heard that since I wrote it, but I appreciate hearing it again in the context of this conversation, because it makes me think that simply the act of trying to make a band work is intentional diplomacy all the time, every day. And I think we leaned into that a long time ago, because that's the only way to keep a band functioning and together, is to make sure everybody's needs are at least attempted to address. You know, like, it really is this constant navigation of feelings and hopes and loves and anger and disappointment and all those things. It's like, when you get four humans together to make art, it's complicated and messy, and the potential is endless to do wonderful things, but you have to manage our humanity. And like that, it is at the core of a lot of what we do, I guess. It's easy to sometimes see the band, Henhouse Prowlers and Bluegrass Ambassadors, as connected but separate entities, but I just over and over keep coming to the conclusion that they need each other to exist, and they inform each other all the time, and it's true. And the four of us as musicians are so much closer than we ever have been, because I think we're being intentional about that stuff these days. And it's not easy. I'm not romanticizing it. There are arguments and disagreements, but I think everybody's listened to and respected at a certain level, and that's the key to longevity in anything, you know.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you've known people for a long time and made music with them for a long time. You cast each other in certain roles it's hard to move on from, just because that's like families do the same. Like, this kid is always this, or my sister's always like that, even if it's 30 years later and they've changed. But there is also, as musicians, a kind of unspoken communication that you can forget exists. If somebody new comes into that, you suddenly start non-verbally communicating, making music, and somebody else can be like, what is going on here? Like, they all seem to know what they're doing and nobody said a word, like, you know. And sometimes you miss that it's happening at the same time.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. The longer that we're together, I wouldn't say the easier it is to communicate, but the more in the habit of it we are, and of listening. I mean, it is the number one thing you should do as a musician is listen. It's not a new idea, but I think those things, that concept easily spreads over the rest of your life if you let it. And this goes back to what you were saying about not in this society these days. So many people push out content and they don't open up their ears and listen. Man, that's got to be a huge part of what you do, because people need to be heard. You know, if you want people to listen to you, you have to listen to them. This is such fundamental stuff here, but it's also something I personally need to say out loud all the time to remind myself of it.
Yeah, I'm somebody who loves to talk, and somebody said to me a few years ago, he said, the best piece of advice my dad ever gave me were, you have two ears and one mouth, use them proportionally.
Wow, I love that. I had a kid come up to me the other day at a school program we were teaching, and there was a line of kids. Like, at the end of a lot of these programs, we will finish with and let the kids try out the instruments, and I'll sit there with a banjo, and a kid will come up and sit down, and I'll put the banjo in his lap, and a kid gets to feel the vibration of the strings, and we think that's a really important part of that stuff. And this kid sat down and he looked down at my boots and he said, "I like your boots." And this was like a fourth grader. And as he was messing with the instrument, I was thinking, man, what a wonderful instinct for that kid to have. And so I told him, I said, "Hey, man, that you felt compelled to tell me you liked something about me, that's going to get you far in life." I was like, keep feeling like it's okay to say that kind of stuff. And he was like, he listened and kind of blinked and then walked off, and he came back to me 5 minutes later and he said, I just want you to know that I thought your whole band looked good today. And I just felt like it was so important to encourage that kind of positivity in a kid that age, you know. And it's like, he made me feel seen, and like, that kid's gonna go places, man. If you can make people feel seen, people want to be around you and give you opportunities, you know. So
there's that lovely sentiment that like, you don't really remember what people say to you. You remember how they made you. Like, you don't remember what people said, you remember how they made you feel.
Yeah.
And that sense of, like, we spend so much time trying to be cool that we forget to be warm, and that's such a powerful thing, isn't it? Just when somebody makes you feel like you've been noticed. And
I think that needs to come from a natural place, and that's what that kid was doing. Like, he saw my boots and thought they were cool, and he said it, and I think I was trying to encourage his passion for just noticing things, or, you know, like, this conversation got super heady, man.
These are my favorite kind of conversations, because, like, you talk about the separation between band and not for profit, and all of the things, but all of the things we do are part of who we are as humans. So like me as a podcaster is related to me as a dad, is related to me as like what I do for work, is related to like all the things I do make me better, all the other things I do, because they're all connected, because they're all just expressions in some form of who I am. And like, yeah, we've gone a little bit deep for this early in the day, but I love talking about this because this is the stuff that really makes people artists.
Absolutely, and like I love this too. I mean, this is the space I want to exist in, is like being aware of the humanity around us and being excited about it. And I think that's one of the core tenets of the work that we do. I find learning about how other people think, whether it's at IBMA surrounded by other banjo players, or whether it's in a foreign country surrounded by people that I know almost nothing about. It's like being curious about people leads to really a better understanding of humanity, and like what a cool thing to get just a tiny bit closer to, because good Lord, are we one of the most complicated things you could ever imagine, you know?
I can't really think of a better point to wrap up. This has been a glorious conversation. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. I love what you're doing with the podcast. Seriously, I think you're making waves, and it's good stuff.
Thank you so much.
I hope you leave that in there.
I have to now. That was Ben from Henhouse Prowlers. Next up is Rick Faris, and we're going to chat about his new record On the Dark Shadow, which is Life's Parade. I'd seen him play the night before in a little room in the convention centre. It's one of the joys of IBMA is getting to see people in kind of fairly small spaces, and then to get to chat to him the next day. It's just really interesting. It's a great record full of kind of cameo appearances by people like Dan Tominski, Ron Block, Justin Moses. Do go and have a listen. But we also chat about kind of what sits behind this record and some of his experiences in recent years, and why that has driven the themes on the record. We also chat about his other career as a guitar maker for Kentucky Guitar Works, and that was interesting too. Again, first time I talked to Rick, really enjoyed that. So here is my chat with Rick Faris. Rick, welcome to Bluegrass Jam Along. It's great to have you here.
Hey, thanks so much, Matt, for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's always fun doing interviews at IBMA because there's such a lot going on, and it means something different to everybody. So I'd love to start with just having a chat about what this event means to you as a writer, as a musician, as a guitar maker, you know, just as a chance to meet people and talk about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, to use an American euphemism, it's kind of like the Super Bowl, you know. I mean, but this is it's the one time where we get to see friends that I haven't seen for a while. You know, I toured 11 years with the Special Consensus Band, and you know they're globetrotters. So I have a lot of friends in Europe, friends in Australia, of course, friends in Canada. But like you know, everyone's here to celebrate bluegrass and really shine a light on it, but it's also a great place to do business with people in the industry. There's promoters here, there's string companies, there's luthiers. You know, I'm a guitar maker as well as an artist and a songwriter, and so this is just it's a great place to do business and chat with people in the industry, collaborate. And just have fun. The jamming is stupendous here, so it's always great to hang out and see friends and make great music together.
And it's one of the things I realised when I first came is just how many kind of different involvements people have. Like, very few people here seem to be like only one thing. People are performers, but they are also writers, or they're photographers, or they're like, you know, everybody seems to wear at least 3 hats, and it's fun to see all that mix and mingle.
Absolutely. You know, as an artist, you learn to make things work, and sometimes, you know, I think especially as an artist that performs, and as a singer, like I feel that a genuine connection to the music happens when it's your story and you're telling it. So that naturally kind of lends to a songwriter, you know. But you know, also. Sometimes when you grow up an artist, you grow up poor. And the reason I started building guitars is because I couldn't afford a better one. And I've been doing that now 22 years. And so, you know, that was out of necessity, but it's grown into a great passion of mine, and I've made it now a career. That's what I do full-time, and I do the playing part-time. But we we also, I mean, we played in La Roche last year. We've played in Canada 3 times this year. So we're an international touring band, and I've only had it going for this is year 4 now. So things are going well, and that's because I come to IBMA each year. I meet promoters from across the globe, and get to my band in front of folks that are wanting to do interviews, wanting to collab on songs, or just maybe wanting to start another project that is for another songwriter, and they want a singer who can sing tenor or something, which is what I'm kind of known for. So it's just great to be out, to be relevant, to really just be part of the community too. I mean, we did a fundraiser this morning, Biscuits for Bluegrass. And it was really fun. We had about 20 different artists, legends in the business, up there jamming together, and we were like a mariachi band, bluegrass style. And it was celebrating those who fundraise for bluegrass and take care of our community. So it's a wonderful place to share that community.
And those 2 words, kind of collaboration and community, sort of sum all of this up. And even like talking about being a luthier and stuff, just walking around the exhibit hall, and like the guys from Collings are there, Pre-War are there, like Neckville banjos, but they're all talking to each other,
Mm-hmm.
They're like Thompson guitars, they're hanging out, talking to each other about stuff. It's like a family. There's no competition. There's no kind of measuring up against each other. They're all like, hey, what do you know? What have you seen in the last year? And it's exciting to see.
It sure is, And the thing about the luthier community, and it wasn't always this way. Or in the early days, people would be like, oh, that's a secret. It's because they didn't know. but the luthier community is really special in that, they're still trying to make the very best instruments possible. And, when you're struggling, as a luthier, you'll talk to a friend that will talk and will help. But also, you have something that you've learned. If you're really honing that craft, you have things to bring to them too. So it's this wonderful exchange of knowledge that's just making guitars better now than they've ever been. There's so many great luthiers out there, and when these guitars are 80 years old, they're going to be sought after even more than they are today, because they're just, instruments are better built now. We know how they function after 80 or 90 years, and it's an extremely vibrant crop of luthiers now, and they're getting seen at places like this. So it's a wonderful place to see the heartbeat of the luthier community, because everyone's around like, who's the new builder, who's somebody who's really doing stuff that's spectacular. And you can see the folks who are just starting. You can see the folks who have been doing it for 30 years, and they've honed everything in to fine detail. It's inspiring.
And you were talking earlier about kind of putting your own story across as an artist, and this has been a great venue for doing that. And you have a new record, Life's Parade. I saw you play the title track off it last night. I'm just going to read you something that came through with the press materials for this that I really liked. It says, this album represents a snapshot in time of my life journey and my wants for the world. I hope these songs bring you light on dim and dark days. Not all of us can have the honour of being parade marshal or beauty queen, but life's a celebration, and it ain't over till all the clowns in their tiny cars have passed by in life's parade. Here's to not giving up on hope. That is a beautiful thing, and the opening track, Bend Don't Break, is very much a kind of a summing up of that, like, attitude to dealing with things.
Yeah. People are always struggling with something. That's a very human thing. Whether it's money, whether it's relationships, whether it's personal struggles. Everyone has a story. Everyone has something they're dealing with, and that's the human condition. That's part of what ties us together. And if we know we're not alone in that, there's power in that, and to encourage others. I think that's one of the greatest callings, in life is to be there for your fellow man. The Bend Don't Break was born out of a time of great hardship for me. I had moved to another state and was moving my shop. I went 3 months ahead of my family to prepare the shop, so that my wife had family support back home with the kids, and I could just work as hard as I could for 3 months. I didn't see him, and just working as much as I could. 4 to 6 hours of sleep is what I had each night, and then I'd be back in there and working away. And it was the hardest thing I'd ever had to do before, but it taught me, just like my trail running did, I can do hard things, and trying to keep that positive dialogue, and not being discouraged. That there's a lot of power in that, and I try to impart that to other folks so that they know they're not alone.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how nearly all the meaningful things that happen in our lives come from being a little bit out of our comfort zone.
Yes.
But that being out of our comfort zone is obviously uncomfortable, and it's finding that balance, isn't it, of pushing yourself to do the things that count without living uncomfortably.
Yeah, growth never comes from a place of comfort. You have to be challenged, you have to be stressed, you have to be put in a vice, so to speak, to be worked over and to become something new. But that you definitely have to go through a crucible, and it's really great when you've been through some things and you realize it's going to be okay. I'm going to come out on the other side better for it. I just have to continue to keep faith and keep moving forward. Just keep swimming. But it's nice to be able to create positive dialogue. That's what I love about being a songwriter, is really I get to choose what I put out in the world. We all know what the world is. We know it's a dark place. It's a place that wants to isolate us at times and divide us. And to know that I can bring light, I can bring positivity, I can bring community and fellowship to people who don't realize they have that. And then they can find power, they can find a voice, they can find encouragement from that. I think that's one of the best things. I'm here to serve people. And I think a lot of people forget that music really is that. I mean, it binds us together, it lifts us up in times of sorrow, and it's a great celebration when we're happy. So music's amazing.
Yeah, and there's so much of it here, and so much kind of there's one of the lovely things about coming to something. You can go to a big stage and see like Gillian Welch tonight, or you can see Sierra Hull last night, or whatever, but there's also lots of music going on in very small rooms, and the connection is it's palpable. The lights are up, you can see people, and there's something really lovely about that. Yeah,
absolutely. I've played in front of crowds of 20,000 people, like at Poppy Mountain on a Saturday night, and I've played for rooms that were lonesome. But sometimes, the greatest connections are made in a very small room that's packed. People are excited. They're excited to hear the music, but they're also excited because everyone around them is just feeding off of what's going, and the energy goes out, but it comes back to us too. And that, again, it just starts to fever pitch, and everyone is just excited to be together and celebrating music. So,
yeah, and there's something about that, about roots music in general, but that divide, and this has come up as a theme so much in the podcast, but that divide between audience and performer is much more blurred than for a lot of genres of music, and there's something really kind of moving about that as well.
Absolutely. Bluegrass musicians generally are very accessible, and it's a lot like the luthier community where, when I was a kid, I talked to people and it was like, oh man, you did this really cool lick on this one song on your record, and I couldn't figure it out, but I really wanted to ask you about it. Could you show me that? And there were people who would take time and do that, and it really made the difference for me. It made me feel encouraged. The first jam I ever was in at IBMA, it was with Ron Block, who plays with Alison Krauss. And I was fairly new to dobro, but I felt pretty good about it, and I was comfortable jamming. And he just he was very complimentary. And this guy was standing next to Jerry Douglas every night, and he took time to compliment a young guy. I was like 16 years old playing dobro, and I carried that around, and that charged my batteries for years. So I try to pass that on to others, and encourage kids. And I have young people in my band right now. I have an 18, 19, and 21-year-old in the band. and I'm kind of band dad, but they don't make me, they don't make me be dad. But it's fun to see these people who are not burnt out and checking out of the emotional side. They're so excited to be playing, as am I. And we charge each other on stage. We have fun, and it's what music should be,
Yeah, totally. And there's that similar sort of collaboration that I was going to ask you about in terms of writing as well. You were IBMA Songwriter of the Year last year.
Yeah.
And this record is all kind of self or co-written. And it feels like you've got a real kind of writing relationship with Rick Lang. And there's a lot of co-writes with you two on this record.
Yeah. There's a lot of co-writes with Rick on just about every one of my records. But he is one of my favorite human beings. He's just such a sweet soul. He owned a woodworking business for decades. He owned a lumber operation, and so we connect on so many levels. We're both songwriters, we're guitar players, we're wood nerds, So everything just clicks with Rick, and it's so easy. It's like every time we get together and write, we also spend a great deal of time just visiting and checking up on each other and kind of getting what's going on in the world with them. So it's one of my favorite things to do, just to sit down and write with him and visit. He's super creative. He's definitely the idea guy between the two of us. He's always thinking of ideas and has just a running list of, I want to write this song with Rick, with Rick Faris or whatever, and so he won Mentor of the Year this year. So he's very active in the community. He's just a sweet soul, and yeah, I hope to have many, many more years riding with Rick.
Well, it's a great record full of great songs. I've been really enjoying it, and it's been real fun to catch up and chat with you.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
And last but very much not least is my chat with Jana Mougin, who is the person who helped put all these interviews together in the first place. She runs Dark Shadow Recording along with her partner Stephen Mougin, and we have a chat about, as with all of these interviews, it's nice to talk about IBMA and what that means for people in the business and the kind of role it plays as well. So we talk about that a bit, a little bit how Dark Shadow works with artists and what their approach is, and yeah, just really, really interesting. I hope you've enjoyed these interviews. This is the last segment of this one. This is Jana Mougin from Dark Shadow Recording. I am here in Chattanooga at IBMA World of Bluegrass with Jana Mougin from Dark Shadow Records. Jana, it's great to chat to you.
It's very nice to see you again this year, and congratulations on your nomination. I'm very happy to see the international members of our community being represented when it comes to the award and recognition.
And it's great just to be here and be part of it and enjoy the atmosphere and see so much great music. And I know it's really clear to me how exciting this is as a place to be just as a fan of the music. But in terms of kind of you guys as a record label with Dark Shadow, what does IBMA kind of offer as an opportunity for you guys?
It's a great opportunity. Stephen and I are, of course, big fans of bluegrass music, and we want to support the young talent. And as you know, our record label is a little different than maybe some other bigger labels. We are very small. It's just two of us, and everything that we release is created at Dark Shadow Recording from the very beginning. Stephen is the producer of all our releases, and he works with the artists from the very beginning, from the concept of a new album. They pick the songs. There is usually a huge list of songs to choose from, so they go through that process, and then everything is recorded in our studio because that's his passion. And I'm just so happy that he just got awarded. He got the award for the Engineer of the Year, and he can't be here this year. He was here for 2 days, but he's also very fortunate to play with Sam Bush and the Louisville Orchestra this weekend. So, but getting back to the IBMA, what it means for us, we get to see the new bands, and that's what he loves to do. He does the band coaching sessions as well every year, and that's he's an educator at heart, and that's his original profession as a teacher, and a leader who wants to work with young bands and give them the advice. And when these things happen, this is a huge part of what he does and what Dark Shadow is about. He wants to educate people. So every time he coaches a young band or a new band very brave band, because you have to be brave to be able to take that criticism. He loves the opportunity for other folks, musicians, band members to sit and watch that session and maybe learn from it, apply some of the notes and suggestions to their band and their situation. So that is a huge part of what we do at Dark Shadow, at IBMA every year. And of course, we love to go and watch the Ramble, the Bluegrass Ramble, the official showcases, and of course, the late night showcases. So that's basically, our label is all about discovering new artists and growing them at our label.
And it feels, just from seeing your presence here over the past 2 or 3 years, and I saw one of those coaching sessions when I first came to IBMA, and it's fascinating just to see the difference in energy, like in 30 minutes, just from having a couple of pointers. But seeing your artists and seeing you, and kind of, Dark Shadow definitely feels like a family, not just a traditional label, and there's something really beautiful about that.
Because we are so small and we have no intention to grow or change our concept. Our music will be always created at our small, in our studio, which is a home studio, but is professionally designed by Kevin Hughes, who is one of the prominent designers, some huge Nashville venues, music concert venues. So we say it's a home studio, but it's not really the meaning of it's a very professional studio, and the concept will be the same. We know we can do 3 or 4 albums per year, so with the input that we put in it. So Stephen records, we have a graphic designer outside of Dark Shadow. We work with a great graphic designer, and mastering happens at the Airshow Mastering in Boulder, Colorado. David Glasser masters our singles and albums. So everything else is basically created at home. I take care of the radio publicity and general publicity for our artists. I schedule interviews and help get the word out about our new releases. So we appreciate these opportunities to network at IBMA. That's a huge part for our label as well. The presence is very important for us.
And with that capacity to only do like 4 records maybe in a year, it's a big deal to bring a new artist into that family, and you have a new band just signed with you this week.
Oh, we are so thrilled. This is a special band to us that we've been watching for a while. The signing happened at IBMA because we are all here together and physically able to sign the contract. We signed the Sullivan Sisters, talented young female musicians who originally come from North Carolina. They relocated to Chicago area, where they connected with great mentors, musicians. They know Henhouse Prowlers, our other Chicago band. We are very proud to have them on the label as well. In fact, Lucia and Soraya Sullivan, they work with Henhouse Prowlers. They co-wrote a song that they just performed yesterday at the award show luncheon. So there is a connection. We've been watching this band, and we are very proud of them. They took the 3rd place at the Rocky Grass contest this year. The other band members are just teenage musicians, but very accomplished, also Rocky Grass winners on their individual instruments. They are originally from Chicago area. I would name Finn McGinnis is the fiddle player, and Oscar Caudell, mandolin player. now living in Asheville, so it's not Asheville, North Carolina, so it's a little bit more complicated logistically. And our son, Sammy Mougin, is a part of this band, and we've been very supportive. He plays bass, and we've been watching them trying to, Stephen was trying to mentor and coach the band, even not with the intention to have them on the label. We just wanted to make sure we reached the point when they are ready, and they proved they are ready. They submitted their application to be a showcase artist, got selected. They played they went on 2 tours this summer. They took it very seriously. They have their roles. Who books the gigs, who takes care of the logistics and the road managing. So we can see that they are serious, and that's what we want to see. We sign hard workers and young talent. That's basically a typical thing that we want to do with Stephen, just grow the bands and see their growth in the year when we look back. And when it's time to move on for them, we would be happy to support that too. But first, they will work with us, and I'm really, really excited about that.
And you sort of see the flip side of that with Henhouse Prowlers, who are celebrating 21 years together, 10 albums, and what a journey they've been on. And that is, I think that's something that can be missing from the music business, particularly maybe not so much in roots music, but the wider business these days, is that ability to develop a career, like not have to just land and immediately be a success, because music doesn't work that way, does it?
Henhouse Prowlers were a band that we signed them when I think they've been working or playing for 17 years when they joined Dark Shadow. But they always wanted to, make a big step forward. And when we look back, we recorded 2 albums with this band. And I think we can see the growth. When they worked with Stephen, his input, they spent so much time preparing for the studio, and recording in the studio was a whole different experience for them. I'm sure you will have someday a chance to talk about it with Ben. He can talk about the process, how different it was to work with the label. I mean, specifically with Stephen in this case. And today, when we look at them, they have their team of support. It's not just a band doing all the hard work behind besides just playing music. They have publicists, they have their marketing person, and also a road manager, and a new agency. So that determination for that band, we can see how much changed for them in the past few years on our label, and we're just very happy to see this, even for a band who has been on the scene for 2 decades now.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's sort of testament to kind of people wanting to work in that kind of way and have a close relationship with the people they work with, and it's a joyful thing. It's great to see you again, and it's really cool getting to talk about all of this stuff. I love one of the things I love about the kind of roots and bluegrass scene is, there are still little labels that are passionate about what they do and are committed to doing this thing and putting out product, and kind of the world is better for it.
It definitely is. This is what we love to do. Of course, Stephen tours with Sam Bush Band, so we are somewhat limited in signing and working with more bands than we have on the label, so we get to choose really someone who fits our family, our Dark Shadow family, and I hope we'll get to continue and grow the bands. And of course, we are proud of our roster, and hope soon we'll talk about new albums with you, and when we get together next year, hopefully.
Yeah, it's been great to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that is that for this episode. I hope you enjoyed those. I really enjoyed these conversations. It's a lot of fun piecing these episodes together. It's nice just wandering around with a mic in my hand, plugged into my phone at an event like IBMA, because I get a different kind of interview. I don't often get to talk to people face to face, and I really enjoy that. But you also get a different kind of conversation. just kind of in a public space and all of that. So yes, hope you enjoyed those. Do come back next week. The next episode is going to be with Daryl Anger about his Volume 2 of Diary of a Fiddler. So stick around for that next week. In the meantime, have a great week and happy picking. Bluegrass Jamalong is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas.